gate, and broad is the road that leads to destruction, and many enter through it. I suppose a lot of you have traveled down I-20 going toward Dallas, and there's a place there where the lane is about, two, it's 4 lane, 2 on each side, and it kind of goes to 3, and then all of a sudden it just opens up into this freeway, and there's 6 lanes on both sides. And as soon as you move into that, you just got, there's not that much traffic yet. You got all this room, you're just kind of floating along, going over the lines and things. It just opens up and makes a big, wide traveling way for you. All too many of you probably know that I enjoy watching Seinfeld every now and then, and there is an episode, I don't remember much about it, except that Kramer was in charge of a stretch of highway, and he wanted his people that travel down it to be happy. And, I guess he was picking up trash and all this other stuff, and he decided he wanted wide lanes, and so he drives his old car down there with a bucket of paint in his seat and gets a roller, and he reaches down out of his door, and he hits all the yellow stripes. He just takes those little yellow dashes out as he's driving, and turned 2 lanes into 1. And I remember someone on the show, it might have been Elaine, was driving down there and all of a sudden that drives into that, and she's just, hey, wide lanes, and she just started weaving back and forth, just like that. Well, that's fun, that's easy, there's lots of room, there's no way hardly to make a mistake. That's Kramer's highway. Well, the lure on our list we were talking about, the lure and excitement and pressure from peers and friends usually goes along this broad, smooth, easy to travel road. Would you agree with that? That's where we find those things. Unencumbered is the gate, and easy to travel is the road to destruction. Speaking of Kramer's highway, there is a king's highway. God speaks of his highway in Isaiah chapter 30, beginning in verse 8. I'm going to read a few verses here. If you want to turn there, that's fine. Isaiah 30 and verse 8, it says, and this is God speaking to Isaiah. He says, "Go now, write it on a tablet for them, inscribe it on a scroll, that for the days to come it may be an everlasting witness. For these are rebellious people, deceitful children, children unwilling to listen to the Lord's instruction. They say to the seers, 'See no more visions.' And they say to the prophets, 'Give us no more visions of what is right. Tell us pleasant things. Prophesy illusions. Leave this way, get off this path, and stop confronting us with the Holy One of Israel.'" They actually say to him, "Don't prophesy unto us right things. Prophesy unto us," and I love the word, "smooth things." We want to hear smooth things. We want you to prophesy unto us illusion. Make us dream. Make us feel good. That's what we want to hear. And then in the next verse, they actually say, "Leave this way. Get off of this path." As if you people don't belong on this broad, wide, wonderful path that we're traveling down. Get that out of our way. You're just a problem. Your teachings, your prophecies are just a hurdle, something that we have to get over. Move them out of the way. Sometimes we get to thinking that way when we're driving down our big path of life, and we get someone trying to pull us back into the Lord's path and onto his highway, and we just want them to get out of the way. There are many reasons that mankind has trouble finding the Phlebo road, or this narrow road, but the main reason is probably that we just like the wide open too much. In Isaiah, if you went to Isaiah, there's a couple more verses we're going to read there close. In Isaiah 11 in verse 16, it says, there will be a highway for the remnant of God's people. Now, the idea of very few being able to make it down this path and go into that gate is the fact that there won't be very many. And if you're a quilter here, what is it that you make quilts out of? Why did quilting even start? That would be a question many men would wonder. Why is there quilting? Because there's a bunch of pieces of material laying around after you make garments or shirts or whatever, and you got all these extra pieces, and they're called remnants. And so you gather up the remnants and say, I can't throw them away. Men, women cannot throw away pieces of material. They do not ever go away. They get stuffed in drawers, stuck in closets, and every now and then they pull them out and they're going to make a quilt. And so a remnant is just a leftover, this is what's left. And that's the word he uses here, is a remnant. For my remnant, for my very few that make it to this drawer, this highway's for them. And then in Isaiah verse 35, it talks a little more about that highway. Chapter 35 and verse 5, it says, then will the eyes of the blind be opened, and the ears of the deaf unstopped. Then will the lame leap like a deer, and the mute tongue shall shout for joy. Water will gush forth in the wilderness and make streams in the desert. The burning sand will become a pool, and the thirsty ground bubbling springs. In the haunts where jackals lay, grass and reeds and papyrus will grow. And then in verse 8 it says, and a highway will be there. It will be called the way of holiness. It will be for those who walk on that way. The unclean will not journey on it. Wicked fools will not go about on it. No lion will be there, nor any ravenous beast. They will not be found there, but only the redeemed will walk on that highway. There is a path called the way. It is for God's people. It is not so much that when you get to that road, you become God's people. It is more that only those who seek God and put him first in their life and are God's people wind up on that road. That's just where they travel. And they find themselves rapidly on the way to eternal life. The gate. As Jesus was going from city to city preaching, someone asked him, this is in Luke 13:23, by the way. Someone asked him, Jesus, are only a few people going to be saved? He replied to them. He didn't count. He didn't say, yes, only a few. He simply said this to him in verse 24, make every effort to enter through the narrow door, because many, I tell you, will try to enter and will not be able to. The word there, better transliterated, is probably strive. Strive, work hard, do diligence to entering through this door. Many will try. There will be many who believe in Jesus and that are in a particular, and know that there is a particular gate to enter, and they'll get on the wrong path. They get on the wrong way going to that gate. Three things I want to point out from Proverbs chapter 4, beginning in verse 20 and through 27. It says, my son, pay attention to what I say. Turn your ear to my words. Do not let them out of your sight. Keep them within your heart, for they are life to those who find them and health to one's whole body. Twice he says, pay attention. And then he says, do not let this out of your sight. He's talking about focus. He's talking about what we focus on, what is important to us. What are we staring at? What are we looking at to spend our time and effort? Where do we spend that? I heard a guy one time says, listen, I have a focus problem. When my wife talks to me, she can ask me something. I have no idea what she says. And she gets on to me all the time about me focusing on what she's saying. But when I'm golfing and I'm on the green and I've got to make a 4-foot putt, now listen, I can focus. Because that's important to me, see? Whatever's important to us, we get it. We focus on it. We know what it takes to be on it or to attain it. Secondly, in that passage, in verse 23, it says, above all else, guard the heart, for everything you do flows from it. Keep your mouth free from perversity. Keep correct talk from your lips. We're trying to stay on this path, this difficult, encumbered path. Take all of the excess off. Don't let anything stray you one way or the other while you're on that path. Guard the heart. Don't let anybody pull you away. And the third thing there says, let your eyes look straight ahead. Fix your gaze directly before you. Give careful thought to the paths your feet are on, and be steadfast in all your ways. Do not turn right or left. Keep your foot from evil. One of the songs the kids sang for LTC last year was, I won't turn left and I won't turn right, left and right. I will not stray from the path that's right. How many times did we sing that, Will? We said those words 1,000 times, didn't we, preparing for all of that. Don't turn left. Don't turn right. Keep your feet on the path that is the right one. Back in Luke in chapter 13, we were there a little while ago. Back to that passage in verse 25, it says, once the owner of the house gets up and closes the door, you will stand outside knocking and pleading, sir, open the door for us, but he will answer, I don't know you or where you come from. And then you will say, we ate and drank with you, and you taught in our streets. But he will reply, I don't know you or where you're from. Away from me, you evildoers. You know, when the Lord destroyed the earth with the flood, I can't imagine being in that scene, but I can only imagine what that might look like. But I do know that once the Lord had his animals on that ark, and once the Lord had his people on that ark and they were safe, he shut the door. And the door did not come back open. There was one chance to get on that boat. One chance to get on the boat. And it wasn't many people that got on. Just a few. Just as Jesus was telling us this morning. Just a few will find that path. And many, many will find the path to destruction. The encouragement this morning is, one, to stay on the straight and narrow. Find and stay on the difficult, encumbered path of the redeemed. Jesus did not say, fully satisfy yourself and gather up all your belongings and come with me and be my disciple. Jesus said, if you want to be my disciple, you will deny yourself and you will take up your cross and follow me. Maybe the path is difficult, but it is constantly referred to in Scripture as a journey of joy. Now, how do we turn that tide? We've talked about how difficult this path is and how narrow and encumbered and restricted the gate is this morning. But constantly in the Scriptures it says this becomes a journey of joy. How many times in the Scriptures tell us to be happy and joyful and hopeful? This is not a sermon intended for us to walk out the door dragging our heads about how difficult this life as a Christian or God's people is going to be. It's one of joy. It is a pathway of being happy and hope And it's because we know at the end of that journey is life and eternity and eternal fellowship